Yeah? Let my Lord, I pray thee, regard this man of, here we go again, Belial. Now, she's even said he's a son of Satan, or he's a man of Satan. Now, get this though. Even Nabal, for as his name is, so is he. Nabal is his name, and folly is with him. You say, what does that mean? Remember, I told y'all through all these different lessons and different studies that we do. Nowadays, we look for cute little names in our books, or we name them after our family members, or we look for cute little names. Well, in the Bible, they chose names that meant something. That's why a lot of times God would change their name. Because they had changed, or something was different about them. And so names were very important. Y'all know what Nabal means? It means fool. And that's why I said, as his name is, so is he. Teresa said that many times, didn't you, Teresa? That, yeah, absolutely. so even his wife said, he's a devil. I mean, just a pure devil. Just like his name says, he's an idiot, Miss Debbie. That's... Anyway, so this guy's bad, y'all. I mean, we find out ain't nobody likes this fellow. He is just, the Bible's against him, his employees are against him, his wife's against him, everybody's against this dude. He's just terrible dude. Alright? I did write this down. There are a lot of Nabals around. I got hands going up. Who knows some Nabals? Some people that you just can't stand to be around. I mean, they're just terrible, terrible people. Oh, he's going to Bob. You're right. Is that witness there?
Point at himself. That's
So we've got these people that are just negative all the time. They're jerks. They're hard-headed. I mean, just stubborn. And I'm not talking about you on this one. The hard-headed, stubborn, I got. The rest of it. But we know people like this, especially in the church. If you don't believe me, come in and try to change something. Boy, you see people's hackles get up, the hair on the back of their neck stands up, and they go all to pieces. We've been doing this way for 50 years. Oh, we got to change now. Well, we got electricity now. We like to turn on the light. You know what I'm saying? If you want to stick with the whole, go to Church of Christ. Now, I don't mean nothing negative. But, they don't have music, they don't have instruments, they don't have none of that stuff. And I keep wondering why they got pews, because they didn't have pews in the Bible either. Well, I ain't wearing sandals and robes, because that's what they had back anyway. But we have got a lot of negative people in the church, and a lot of stubborn people in the church. And this is what David is dealing with. And he's going to them, he's going, listen, guys, we took care of you, just whatever you think is worth. Just whatever you think is worth, pay for. And this guy said, I don't even know who y'all are. So now we've got the furious soldier. So now the 10 men come back to David and said, this is what Nabal said. Now we got an issue. Verse 13. And David said unto his men, gird ye on every man his sword. And they girded on every man his sword. And David also girded on his sword. And there went up after him David about 400 men, and 200 devoted by the stuff. I believe the Bible calls it the stuff. So in other words, we got 400 guys going, 200 standing back protecting their things, their stuff. And I don't know if you get this or not, but David ain't going for a meeting with the boss man. You don't strap on a sword to go out and talk to somebody. David said, all right, boys, get your swords. The Bible says David got his sword and he strapped it up. They ain't going to talk about this matter. Now, we're going to jump from lesson to lesson. You'd think David done learned his lesson one time. Flying off at the handle. You don't realize that had they had anger management classes back then, David would have probably been a star student. I mean, he got mad at everything. He was constantly trying to get back at somebody, constantly trying to stir revenge on Saul, and he cut off the little piece of his robe, and the Lord smote him in his heart, and he said he was burned up in his heart, and man, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done it. Now he talking about going killing somebody. I mean, he makes mistakes, y'all. He's a man after God's own heart, but he makes mistakes. And David is now saying, you know what? Get the sword. We're going to go clean house. Verse 21. Now David had said, surely in vain have I kept all that this fellow hath in the wilderness, so that nothing was missed of all that pertained unto him, and he hath requited me evil for good. So David and his 400 men are on their way to Nabal's to sit down and eat bologna sandwiches and have a picnic. Now, David and his men are on their way to clean house and to wipe out. You got to remember, back in those days, they didn't just kill one; they killed everybody. He's coming to kill Nabal and everything that Nabal's got. Everything that Nabal's got with him. Women, children, probably half the animals. He may take some with him. I don't know. But this is David's thing. And what happens is, when Wayne has done something to me, and I'm trying to get revenge, you know who the best person to boost me up against him is? Myself. I can't believe you said that blessed thing, Miss Diggy. As good as I've been to him, he's going to treat me like, I know it. I knew he was like that. I should have known he was like that. And we boost ourselves, and we talk ourselves into, and get ourselves all worked up about this whole situation. It was something like that to start with. But boy, we done got ourselves all worked up. We're ready to fight. We're ready to throw down. We're ready to get revenge on that person. We're ready to ruin that person. We're ready to tell everybody else about how horrible a person they are. And we boost ourselves into this. And this is what David is doing. And now David said, man, I've done everything for this man. Now look how he's doing me. I know none of y'all's ever done that.
Nah, never.
I have. I'll be honest. I have. I've been mad at people, and man, listen, it might have been something that really, really simple. But by the time the end of the week got here, man, they done killed 50 people and robbed everybody in town, and they were just the most horrible person in the world, and I really don't even know what they did. By the time I got there, I done forgot what I was mad at them for start with. Now I got everything else in the world against them.
If you don't quit with these hard lessons, I'm going to. That's all I'm saying. I finally start making it to Sunday school again.
So, but we boost ourselves up to get revenge on these people. And really, it may be justified. That's the bad part. Wayne really might have done something to me. He might have said something about me. He might have stole something out of my house. I'm just saying. But they may have actually done something that was bad, that they deserved revenge. We talked about that last week with Saul. Saul was not innocent. Saul was trying to kill David. If anybody had a right for revenge, it was David. If anybody had a right to go up and get Saul and just whack his head off with a sword, it was David. David had done nothing to him. David was completely innocent. Here's this man trying to kill him. Hunting him through the wilderness and through the deserts and through the caves. Here's a man trying to kill him. David had every right to kill that man. And now here's another situation. Nabal. Man, I've done my work. All right, let me ask you a good question. How many of you would enjoy going to work this week, and then when it comes paycheck time, your boss say, I don't even know who you are. You see what I'm saying? Now, again, let's remember, they ain't getting weekly paychecks. These are guys who have been working out in the wilderness for probably months on end, because you don't shear every month. So shearing time has come. We've been out here for months working on this, and hey, you don't act like you don't know who I am. So David legitimately has a good reason to not like Nabal. And so he is hot. He is mad. He done got his army together. They done got their swords, and we are going. And you know Nabal didn't have no 400 people there. But he's going, and he's going to kill Nabal and all his family. Everything he's got. But in steps the faithful wife. Now, I started to say, this is a rare situation when a woman actually does this, but I figured I better not say anything.
Trying to open that can. I can feel her piercing eyes on you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So in comes this woman called Abigail. Abigail is the wife of Nabal. Now, Abigail hears that David and his men are on the way. Now you got to remember, and we'll get to it again here in a second, but it just keeps coming up. David and his men are there to kill everybody. David and his men ain't just going to come in there and say, excuse us, we're looking for Nabal. That's not what they would do. That's not what people in those days did. They'd start at one end of the property, and they'd go to the other end of the property and wipe out everybody in between. This is who they were. This is what those people in those days did. They didn't just find one individual person and go in there and wipe them out and say, okay, the rest of y'all good. That's not what they did. They would wipe them all out. For the reason they didn't want them coming back after them later. Somebody wipe them all out. I'm done. Wives, children, friends, workers, everybody. So here's this woman who hears, oh Lord, my husband done stuck his foot in his mouth. My wife's never had that. But Abigail, he done opened his mouth again, Miss Betty. Again. He all the time getting in trouble. Now he really done it. Now we got David. And you're going to learn, she knows who David is. Now, Nabal acting like he didn't know, he knows. But Abigail knew, this is the man who killed the 10,000s. This is the man who killed the giant. He's coming after us. Now, my first thought would be, maybe Wayne a little bit tougher than I am. Wayne, I'd be grabbing my folks up, throw the dogs in the car, get the donkey, and we gone. I'll send them a text message and say, I'm sorry, but I'm going to stand around here and take a butt whooping. I just ain't going to do it. I'm out of here, y'all. And so you would think Abigail, now she's a woman. She ain't got a chance against David. If 9'6" giant ain't got a chance, this little lady ain't got no chance. But she had a couple things going for her. First of all, she was a good woman. Now, if you read over in 3 again, it says, now the name of the man was Nabal, and the name of his wife was Abigail, and she was a woman of good understanding and of a beautiful countenance. Something you don't find anymore, Daddy, is a good-looking woman with common sense. I got one.
They throwed me all the way when they made me feel this.
This woman, she was a good woman. And I want to reiterate this fact that she was a good-looking woman. The Bible says she was a beautiful countenance. So she was somebody to admire physically. She was beautiful. But she wasn't just beautiful. She had a good mind to her. And the Bible, that literally means she was very wise. Not that she had a lot of knowledge. Not that she had studied and had a lot of book knowledge. It says that she had really good common sense. She had a lot of wisdom. And so David's on his way, and this woman comes in, and remember now, David's on his way to kill. She's on her way for peace. Sometimes it takes somebody who's not that important, somebody who's not that big in the church, somebody who's not that big in the family, somebody who's not that big of a name to step in and calm down those that are. And sometimes women can just be stubborn. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm just saying, sometimes they can. I ain't saying they are. I'm not saying my wife ever is. I'm just saying, sometimes women can be stubborn-headed, and they'll put their nose in something that don't belong in. You know what I'm saying? They're mamas. and y'all look at somebody's face, and you're going, what in the world is she thinking? She done lost her ever-loving mind. And so they caught this little attitude. You don't know that. They'll caught this little attitude, and they're going to get up in somebody's face and you ain't coming up in my house. I have my kids up in there. I'll tell you right now you ain't coming. You know what I'm saying? That's how some women are. I see Tammy out there doing that right now, y'all. I ain't lying. I can see her out there. Oh, I don't think so. Some guy 8 foot tall, she's standing there doing this out here.
That's what she got
Well, I'm
you
thinking,
for.
huh?
That's what she got you for. That's what
Yeah,
I'm
well,
saying.
yeah. That's what she does to me. What are you talking
That's
about?
what I'm saying.
Oh, I don't think so. You better back up that nonsense. You come up to my house like this. And that's how some women are. And I want you to notice how Abigail came in. Let's read some of these verses real quick. 23 and 24. And when Abigail saw David, she hasted, lighted off the ass, and fell before David on her face, and bowed herself to the ground. And fell at his feet and said, upon me, my Lord, upon me let this iniquity be, and let thine handmaid, I pray thee, speak in thine audience, and hear the words of thine handmaid. She came in humble. She didn't come in with an attitude. She didn't come in trying to stand up to be this vicious mama. She came in, she fell down before him, and she said, sir, if you got to do something, do it to me, but would you please listen to what I got to say first? Now, some of you guys will get in trouble if you agree with me. The pretty little girl comes up and says, listen, can I ask you something? We all want to stop.
Pull out your wallet.
Yes. I can only do good my lifestyle, right? So, but I mean, you got, I would say she's a good-looking woman. He's a man. I mean, come on now. And so she walks up and she says, sir, please, will you at least hear me out? Now, I don't mean this derogatory. Y'all can think derogatory of me if you want to. Some ugly hag would walk up there and say, hey, I want you to listen to me. He'd probably just wipe her head off and get on trouble. God knows what he's doing. Come on, y'all. And so he brings this beautiful woman up to David and says, hey, listen. And she bows down at him. I don't want to read all this. But if you read through those verses, more than 10 times she calls him Lord. And I don't mean Lord like God, Lord. I mean like Master, like the one that's over me. She admits, okay, yes, you can do this if you want to. I understand who you are. She knows who David is. She tells me that. I'll do the verses if you read them. And she bows down and she says, listen, I know who you are. I know what you can do. I know that you killed the giant. I know that you killed tens of thousands. And I know who you are, David. I know that you're this great man. But, and we'll get into that in a second. But she recognizes and shows him that she recognizes who he is. Now, I understand. I know who you're, but I'm coming to you humbly. I'm not trying to get in your face. I'm not trying to be stubborn. I'm not being arrogant. I'm not cocking that thing in your edge. I'm not doing none of that stuff. I am bowing myself before you and humbling myself at your feet. I put this in highlight on my paper. Because sometimes in our society, this is something that we hear. It's just the way I was brought up. And we blame our deficiencies on the culture in which we have lived. Could it have some effects? Absolutely. But I believe you choose your own course. Now, I know that's not popular teaching in today's society, but I highlighted this and said, you do not have to become person that you live with. Just because the person that you live with is stubborn-headed and arrogant and a jerk does not mean that you have to be stubborn-headed, arrogant, and a jerk. James has done very well on this topic. Good example. You do not have to be the person that you're around. You don't have to act like those people. You can be different. But people like to use that as an excuse. And Abigail could have very well been just like her husband. But she chose not to be that way. And we can sit in church amongst a bunch of nabals and be a bunch of negative people and bust on everything that goes on, complain about everybody else, complain about all the other churches, complain about this preacher and that preacher and this group of people and this group of people. And here I'm talking about, I don't like this building for Miss David. You sit there in front, Miss David blocks my view, I can't see. Or Miss Mills blocks my view and I can't see. I don't like this crowd over here, there's too many of them over there. And I don't like Wayne, he beats them drums too loud. Marty's too loud on the beat. We can sit up here and be negative all we want to, and you can choose to either ride with that crowd, or you can choose to be different and say, you know what? I love the fact this feels racist. I love the fact that Wayne gets on them drums and uses his talent to praise the Lord. I'm thankful that this folks over here as a family, they stay together, they come to church together, they work. There's all kinds of things that we can look at on the positive side if we choose to. And not on the negative side. So you got Nabal, who is a jerk and stubborn-headed, and you got Abigail who says, you know what? I don't want to be like that. Even though I live with it, even though I'm in it all the time, even though every Sunday morning, every Sunday night, every Wednesday night, I come in, everybody's negative around me, guess what? I'm going to be positive. That's a hard thing to do. Which brings us to the next point. She was a gallant woman. Remember, David's coming to kill her. Did she have any chance whatsoever of whooping David? Not even close. Is there any way Miss April could come in here in a good mood and ready to worship the Lord, and all of us mad at everything that's going on? Is she going to change our minds? Probably not. We come in here sometimes to services, and the preacher tell you, Wayne will tell you, we sit up here, we look out here, some of you look like the goldfish done died the night before. Best friend done run off with your wife, well, some of you are smiling. But you got people look like the world is caving around them, that everything is just awful, that everything is just terrible, and then you look over and Miss Phyllis has got her hands up. And you say, why is everybody else like that and she's not? Because she's choosing not to be like everybody else.
Amen.
She could very well sit over here and go, you know what? Everybody else in a bad mood, I'm going to be in a bad mood. And I'm going to tell you what, it's easier, and I'll say this with all sincerity, and I don't mean this derogatory, it's easier for her to do it than this for me and Wayne. You know why? Because she don't see y'all. Me and Wayne have to sit up here and look back here at everybody else out here. You sit up here, she put everybody behind her, and she ain't got to worry about everybody yakking and talking and going and doing this and doing that, and passing notes, and eating candy and doing all. She said, I just want to worship. We don't have to be the people that surround us. Now, sometimes that's a good thing. So, listen, I like to sit right there in the middle of the pew between David and Miss Wilson. Get all up in this thing. Sometimes it's a good thing, but we choose what we do. It's not about who we're around, who we live with, who our friends are, or the people that we work with. We choose who we are. Keep on. She had no idea what David would do to her. She is in the same situation David was in last week. David went out and said, Saul, and he bowed down his feet. Y'all remember that? Not knowing that Saul was going to get a sword. He's been trying to kill him for how long now? And now David's just humbled himself at his feet. And now, here's this woman humbling herself at his feet. Now the tide's turned. And I think it probably threw David off guard. She wasn't just a gallant woman. She was a godly woman. You notice that the servants didn't go to Nabal and say, hey, David, his men's on the way. Now notice that didn't happen. Even his employees knew she was a better person than he was. And they went to her. They said, David's man's on his way to kill Saul. They were more worried about her than they were about him. They weren't coming to her so she would go talk him out of it. They were trying to get her away. Verse 28. I pray thee forgive the trespass of thine handmaid, for the Lord will certainly make my Lord a sure house, because my Lord fighteth the battles of the Lord, and hath not been found in thee all these days. She said, listen, you can forgive us of this. You can be forgiven for this. And here's what she said. I don't want you to get this, because this is really important. Let me read the rest of this real quick. Because I want you to get this. 31. Yet a man is risen to pursue thee, and seek thy soul, but the soul of my Lord shall be bound in the bundle of life of the Lord thy God. And the souls of thy enemies, them shall he sling out, as out of the middle of a sling. And it shall come to pass when the Lord hath done to thy Lord according to all the good that he hath spoken concerning thee, and shall have appointed thee ruler over Israel, that this shall be no grief unto thee, nor offense of heart unto my Lord, neither that thou hast shed blood causeless, or that my Lord hath avenged himself. But when the Lord shall have dealt well with my Lord, then remember thine handmaid. Here's what she said. Is what you're about to do worth the grief that you're going to feel later? Anybody ever done anything you regretted that you did? Anybody ever said something to somebody that you regretted that you said? You come out harsh because you were mad, you come out upset, and you said something to this person you know was hurtful to them. And then after the fact, you thought, man, how in the world did I do that? And this is what Abigail's telling David. She's godly. She's saying, listen, you're going to be the king. We know you're going to be the king. The Lord has set you aside to be the king. You don't want to go into your kingdom as a king knowing this is on your conscience. Please, before you do this, think about it, because this is something that's going to live with you for the rest of your life. Very wise woman.
Well, can I stop and ask a question?
Yes, sir.
What happens you sitting in the house, minding your own business, and a family member comes and starts?
And what?
I say, well, what would you, I'm asking a question, see if I was in the right in the room. Here I am sitting in the living room in my own house, minding my own business, watching a baseball game. And I had a family member come over to the house and showed her tail.
Well, you have a choice. David had a choice. You could have got up and said, best thing you can do is get your hind end out my house. That's what you could have done.
That's exactly what I
Or you could have said, listen, can we not sit down and talk for a minute? See what happens, Sammy, this is every day, every one of us. Somebody comes at us, our first instinct is, bow up. That's our first instinct. I'm not saying actually fisticuffs, sometimes it is, but our first instinct is, when he comes up and goes, did you say this? My first instinct is, no, I didn't say that. What's your problem? Now we're in each other's faces. Instead of saying, brother, this is a problem. So David has done that first thing. He's on the way to fight now. And Abigail stepped in and said, listen, if you do this, this is going to stick with you the rest of your life. And you know as well as I do, I don't care how close you are to some people, if they said something in the past to hurt you, you never forget that. Never. I don't care how close you are. I don't care how good friends you are. I don't care how much you worship together and praise together and go to church together and go eat together. There's always in the back of your mind that little thing that they said to you. Always. So is what you're about to say worth spending the rest of your life grieving over saying that?
I don't agree today with what I've done. If I had to do over again, I'd do it again.
She was responded to in kind. So she comes to David. Now, remember, she comes to David. David said to Abigail, blessed be the Lord God of Israel, which sent thee this day to meet me. It wasn't the servants that sent her. It was God that sent her. be thy advice, and blessed be thou, which has kept me this day from coming to shed blood, and from avenging myself with my own hand. Thank you. Thank you for having the courage, and the godly wisdom, and the common sense to come up and say, this is not what you want to do. Thank you for stepping in and being smart enough and brave enough to come up and face somebody that you know you don't have a chance against, and to say, please don't do this, and to explain what the circumstances are going to be. I mean, he goes, here's what happens. I'm going to finish up and get ready to close. Abigail goes home, right? The lessons of Abigail's life, she goes home to her husband. And you think she wants to go right in and tell him, well, she gets there and dude's drunk. He's having a big party. It's shearing season. They're all in celebration. They're all doing this. Look at verse real quick. Abigail came to Nabal, and behold, he held a feast in his house, like the feast of a king. And Nabal's heart was merry within him, for he was very drunken. Wherefore she told him nothing less or more until the morning light. So what happens is she comes home, he's drunk, she's like, hey, you don't tell him right now. He would know, no way. So she waits till in the morning, and she tells Nabal, and just to show you the verses real quick. But it came to pass in the morning when the wine was going out of Nabal, and his wife had told him these things, that his heart died within him, he became as a stone. And it came to pass about 10 days after that the Lord smote Nabal, and he died. What David was wanting to do, because he got smart, or she got smart, and held him up, God said, Vic, this is not yours, it's mine. That's right. He said, don't you worry about your family member coming in there and showing her butt, because guess what? If you stay true to what I tell you, I'll take care of it. And you may not ever see it. But I promise you, the Lord's going to look after his own. And he said, I'm going to take care of this situation. We all, if you know anything about the story, verse 39. He dies, 10 days. He fell over, went into a coma, is what most scholars believe, and from drunken, maybe alcohol poisoning, whatever the case was, and now he's dead. And when David